The following program is rated TVMA. This program may contain strong opinions, explicit language, and possible adult themes. The opinions expressed are not necessarily those of the Smoke Free Radio Network or its affiliates. This program is meant for mature adult audience. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
That was interesting.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Vaping in the Mic. I'm Mike Peterson. Got a few things that we're going to be covering this evening. Nothing too outlandish. A few things that have made people scratch their head and wonder what the hell's really going on. It's the normal kind of FDA pod / stuff in the news that really there are times that it just makes you want to scratch your head, or it makes you go, hey, what's really happening? What's really going on here? So this evening, we not only have our YouTube live video material happening, we are also live on Spreaker, the Smoke Free Radio Network. So we have that chat up and running. We also have the phone lines that are open this evening. If you want to call in, I've got the phone lines running on the laptop over here. As always, you can call in at 215-383-5752. I'd be glad to hear from you if you have something that's going on or there's something that you want to catch up with. This evening, like I said, we're going to turn around. There are a couple things that were happening in the news that grabbed my attention. This evening, we had started out with Bill Wickstrom, who was going to be on this evening. We had rescheduled him. Unfortunately, Bill actually had a family emergency that put he and his wife, Joanne, in a vehicle, and they're driving 10 hours over to take care of some family things that are going on. And my thoughts and prayers are with them as they kind of go take care of business. However, in a very fantastic kind of way, I've got somebody, we'll say the other Bill, this evening, joining me from Canada, up in Vancouver this evening to talk about some of this stuff that's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Bill Tarling. How you doing this evening, Bill?
I resent that term, gentleman. I worked hard on my reputation of being a real jerk.
Well, you're the one that had to wear the button-up shirt, man. So
you had told me it would be a classy show.
Now I got to go put on my fucking tuxedo or something. Man, I saw this when I connected with Bill this evening, and I turned around. Here I am in my standard repertoire of gray T-shirts and things like that, and I look, and in the Zoom window comes Bill, and there's a collar. I'm like, oh my God, what the fuck happened here? But
I do have stuff besides just T-shirts. Every once in a while.
I see you sitting there vaping. Is that your Aries or is that your Zenith?
Oh, no, that's my Aries.
All right.
Unfortunately, my wife took two of my Aries already and both my Chromas.
Oh.
So I've got to order in more for myself.
That's not very nice. It's like not polite at all. But
it's keeping her happy.
Hey, that's the important
She's
part.
loving it. So it's easier for me to build coils rather than ordering coils all the time and restocking that way. So it works for me. And I've got my other areas as well, too.
I actually had a conversation with a store manager about the Aries, and they carried it for a while. But what I found, and this was doing the interview, like possibly round one, we're not sure, but I was doing the roadside assistance interview, of which I've got some editing and a lot of things to do for it. But part of our conversation actually touched on the Aries tank and mouth to lung, and I was rather surprised that might be something more demographic than anything, because there were not a lot of calls for an Aries for a lot of mouth to lung material from people stopping in that particular store.
Don't forget, though, a lot of shops will say, oh, we just don't have the demand for it, so we don't carry it. There's a shop in Parkville, a couple of cities away from me, that said the same thing. Oh, we just don't have the demand for it. There's not going to be a demand for it or word of mouth that you even carry it unless you actually carry it to the smoker and sell it.
And that's one of the big things. I know James Jarvis with the vapor station stores. He has a chain of vapor stations down here in the Ohio area. And both Dimitri and Phil Basardo were down to do some training with James and his store staff. And by the looks of it and the sounds of it, it was something that was absolutely amazing. And hopefully a lot of other stores will pick up on that and say, hey, you know, come on over to our place. We want you to train our folks. We want you to, you know, help us get our stuff squared away. But it's funny that you say that, because it's almost like a chicken and an egg routine. If you don't have it, it's not going to have a demand. Therefore, you're never going to sell it. And then if you do pick it up and you don't work with it, you're never going to sell it, which means that you'll get pissed off and probably not buy anymore.
And like the Aries I found is a great expansion or next step for a lot of the mouth to lung people. But the shops that say, well, we don't carry mouth to lung, there's just no demand for it here. If you carry mouth to lung, yeah, it's not going to be instant. Doors are going to be flooded with people coming in. You're going to have a slow trickle. But what happens is you get a new smoker who walks in. What do they go when they find, hey, might actually work? Buddy, come here. They pass on to their friend, their family. That person then comes in. I want that. They want to progress from, let's say, the coils. Do you have anything else? I really can't handle fancy rebuilding. And like myself, I look and I see all these people doing alien Clapton mosaic coils, and I'm going like, no, I couldn't even do a single coil before the Aries. I gave up with it. So somebody wants to go on like, well, I don't want to keep buying coils. I'd like to have an extra tank, maybe where I can build my own or try it, and that's a good progress for them. Right. So you want to have that option to them. But if you don't start, and like I said, it's not an immediate floodgate. If you don't start catering right back to the basics of having the stuff, proper starters, proper liquids to go with it too, for the beginning vapors, you're not going to keep bringing them back in. All you're going to be doing is saying, we have our regular vapors, the regulars who come in. And like I said, they also buy elsewhere too. But when you're only catering to that market dwindles out.
It does, and I've seen that same thing has been happening with other stores that are just catering to selling the latest, greatest. And it was one thing that Michelle, the lady that I was interviewing, and I'll say the same thing that she did, because it surprised me. She goes, sometimes the latest and greatest is neither the latest nor the greatest.
And plus, everybody is going to have their own personal preference. But think of it this way. When you first learned to drive, did you go out in a Ferrari? Or did you use a clunker?
Yeah, it was definitely the clunker for me. Oh my God, nobody had let anybody that's just learning how to drive into a Ferrari. That's an accident waiting to happen.
And that's the whole point. Like, yes, would somebody in a shop likes and staff like, they've all graduated. most of the people that they had as their early customers, they've all graduated onto bigger things.
Right.
So you start losing track of what first got them interested. Now, if you start catering more to that and you start pushing strictly to that end, and you kind of ignore the lower end and keep bringing in new stuff and mouth to lung stuff and keep watching for that, bring in the proper liquids for them with the nicotine levels, so not everything's a 3 or a 6. If you don't pay attention to that market, you've basically shut the door on a lot of stuff. So all these people who may have thought about converting, where are they going to go? Well, I guess I'll just stick with the gas station.
Yeah.
Buy the single lights and that thing's not working, so vaping sucks. Whereas if you cater to them, you get 1 or 2 people coming in and they will tell, well, remember when Chris was on? He was saying, like, that's why he doesn't have to worry about new business.
Yep.
Every smoker he converts usually brings back 2 or 3 more new smokers within a couple of weeks. And that's how you grow it, but it takes a while to build it up. So you can't just automatically go, oh, yeah, we brought one in and nobody bought it, so we don't bother anymore.
Yeah, so we chucked it and we said we don't want that.
What got you first interested in vaping and helped to convert? Start from that point.
And that's one of the biggest ones that I found, and especially with Chris. Now, since you mentioned him, and I know that you had said the last time that we had kind of spoken that he had kind of seriously enjoyed the Aries tank to where he was going to start putting him in his store. Have you spoken with him since that point?
Actually, it's the Zenith tank that he absolutely loves, and he he carries the whole slew of the Chroma A kits with the Zenith. He carries the Cool Fires with the Zenith. Been trying to get some of them separately. He carries boxes and crates of each of the coils, and he used to be a 100-watt vapor. That was his direct along 100-watt. And he actually posted on Demi's page and said when he got the Cool Fire in, he spent the past 2 weeks carrying with him. When I stopped in at the shop, I told you about it, spend that morning there. Mm-hmm. He was still walking around with that Cool Fire and the Zenith in it, and he's going, it keeps going. I finally changed the coil. It didn't need it, but I figured it's got to die on me sooner or later. So for him, it's been working out great. And like I said, for myself, he orders in the areas when I need. He's got a lot of variety of mouth to lung, all levels from the refillable pods all the way up to the starters. So then he has the big stuff too, but he carries a huge variety of mouth to lung. He carries a really good variety of everything from 12, 18, and even 24 nicotine. He's got the salt next in there as well for those who need it. He really tries to cater to a lot of the smokers, and that place is packed.
And that's the one thing when he had said, even when we were doing the interview with him, he had turned around and he was saying that converting, elderly, but converting people using more MTL device and more things like that. I was amazed because, again, around here, like you said, if people don't carry it, people aren't going to know about it. They're not going to switch. They may not find it enjoyable. Or they get to the other end where they've tried something way early on that was an MTL that just plain old sucked, And
for the elderly, it was really impressive too, because it wasn't like they all flocked to him or he actually went over and pitched them or anything. He just had it in the store. A couple had stopped in. The first one I saw was one I told you about before, the 80-year-old who, I want bubble gum, that lady.
Yep. But
they went back, and actually all the others at the retirement homes and so on are going like, what's that and what are you doing? Well, when you think that when you have somebody who's been smoking heavily for 55 plus years, to be able to suddenly switch, enjoying it, and everyone else there could see it's getting better, naturally they get curious and they go, well, should I try that too? They'd come in, he would spend time with them, make sure that they're set up right for them.
Yep.
And the seniors, once the word spreads around there, it's like wildfire, and they absolutely love showing up in there. They think it's just great, and they have their strictly, here's what I want, here are my flavors. He knows automatically when they walk in, he grabs whichever one, and they spread word of mouth, and they are so friggin' loyal. They are so glad that, like I said, 55 years smoking, and somebody was actually able to stop them without all these huge, I'm going to kill somebody with these cravings type thing.
Yeah, no cravings. They can breathe. They can taste. They're not wheezing going up and down the steps.
Yeah.
To them, it's an amazing product. Mm-hmm. Speaking of products, I'm going to switch over here for a second. There has been some things running around on Facebook, and a couple of that grabbed my attention. There was one that, and I know it's not sold in the United States because it constitutes a new product, but Nicorette came out with a nicotine mist item.
They've actually had it for quite a while.
This just caught my attention because somebody had posted something, that a flavor, a berry flavor. And I went, okay, it's nice to see. And I know that it was not U.S. based, but I went and I checked it out. Amazon didn't carry it. I was glad to see that. But eBay did.
Oh, yeah.
And you can go right to eBay and you can see that it says free shipping to the United States. And it's coming from England, of all places. England.
Yeah, I've seen them in the pharmacies here, too.
I'm like, what the hell? Now, my curiosity factor behind that, and talking about that for a minute, is how long will it actually take Nicorette, because they have other proven products? How long do you think it will take them to get that as a, yes, we can sell it to the open market through the FDA?
Oh, it won't take long. In the U.S., all you have to do is actually, the pharma companies have basically a fast track. All they have to do is provide 2 studies, can be their own studies selected, saying, yep, this is good enough, this will help health, and they can release it. Plus, they've also had other NRT as well. And that's all they basically have to do. Whereas if we came onto the market and said they'd have to go, well, you're going to have to run through all these medical things, provide all this data. They've already done that, and they have the fast track. And if necessary, they can go into the fast track payment to bump up the time release and everything. But it's already been available for a long time anyhow. So
see, this is one of those.
Pull up anything they want.
This is one of those things that, because I don't use NRT products like that, I am woefully ignorant about them. You know, gums, patches, lozenges. I don't use. I should probably educate myself a hell of a lot more than what I have. But that struck me dumb, because I'm sitting here and I'm going, it's not going to take long before that product comes to the U.S. and it's going to be okayed by the FDA. Meanwhile, here we are scratching tooth and nail in the vaping industry, trying just to stay alive, when Nicorette goes, oh, we've got a new product. Mr. FDA, can we get this approved? Sure. Really?
Yeah, it really doesn't take much for them. You got to understand, they've already got all their channels set up, all their communications set up, all their submissions set up. It's an ongoing thing. So it's just a case of, just add it to the pile and, okay, prove. You've got 2 studies. Okay, good enough. Like I said, even in the studies, you can have 100 outside studies that say this stuff will kill you. All they have to do is have their 2 internal studies that say, oh, this will probably actually help the public. This will probably help the public. Good enough. Stamped.
And half of it they're going to piggyback and ride across on something called standard equivalency. Anyhow,
partially, yeah.
And here again, and
don't forget, they've got their own vape devices and everything, which they've already got. They've had designed and planned for quite a while, anyhow, for when that market becomes open for them.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. Vape devices, but. For the people that have not caught up or haven't seen anything, 2 new shows that are going to be coming out, and Bill and I will touch base on that here towards the end of our hour. But I've got 2 new shows coming out for people. One is called Rewind, and that's for when I can't find somebody that's able to be scheduled at 7 p.m. You know, and for a lot of people, it becomes difficult to try and nail them down. So 2 weeks in advance saying, yes, in 2 weeks at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night, I'll be available. So instead, whenever I can catch him, if it's 1 in the afternoon, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning, if it's 5 a.m., that way I can go ahead and do an interview with them. And then we're going to post that to both the Smoke Free Radio Network as well as put it up on the YouTube channel that we have. And the second one, and which I just got done doing the interview side of, it's called Roadside Assistance. And I'll tell you, honest to God, I had more fun doing that, even though parts of it just absolutely were horrid. It took me so long, Bill, honest to God, it took me almost 45 minutes to set up 2 microphones, a mixer, and a laptop and the wires. You believe that? Simply because
I say people just using their phones, and I'm just going, at least that's a lot lighter than when I used to have to carry when I used to production work.
It did, because I had a milk crate basket full of audio equipment and a laptop and wires and cables, but I'll tell you what, the interview in and of itself, I'm really excited. That will come out November 12th. But that interview was refreshing and enlightening because it was odd. It was sitting across the counter in the shop, talking with the manager, and there's people, customers coming in and out and looking at us like, what the hell are you guys doing? You know, it made for a really nice environment. Anyhow, that'll come out on the 12th. We'll talk about that here in a minute.
Well, quick little thing for you.
Sure.
Dimmy's feeling a little bit better. He popped into the chat. I don't know if you got the comment, but the shops up, they gave the seminar to over the weekend. He used to convert 60 to 80 people a week. Now, if they get 2 to 3, they're shocked. That's 5 stores combined. And I think that's one of the reasons why he and Phil went there to help. Let's get back to basics. That's why you're not getting your huge crowds as much anymore, steadily. So,
very, very true.
I know
I did not, and I'm glad that you caught really that. It is in the chat room, Mr. Dimitri Agrafiotis, the Vaping Greek. Dude, I hope you get better.
Bullseye marksman, the one who gets a real bullseye.
Do you know, I watched that entire thing, I don't know how many times. And there's this big thing. Is it a single bull? Is it a double bull? Are they playing by loose rules? Are they playing by professional rules? And I just sat there. I went, oh my God. But yeah, that was a lot of fun to watch. And I know that he was down, again, working with James Jarvis and doing a retraining in getting their people to be able to go ahead and do more MTL material. And I know part of that is getting them... Oh, I'm not even going to talk about that. Oh, no. Dimitri, there is no way.
I still kind of just... Although Phil did make it very loose rules. He just said bullseye, except a bullseye is the center red. The outside is, yes, it would be like the outside part of an eye. But no professional competition would ever go by that. That's for kiddie rules. So yes, I guess Phil did officially win the kiddie prize. But
oh my God.
Dimitri actually got the dead center red bullseye.
Yeah.
So I still count him as the winner. And it's about time. You notice that Phil and Dimmy, they have a lot of competitions involving targets. Curling. Trying to get the stones onto it. Phil won that one. Target shooting. Phil won that one, but he got paid back because the target fought back.
Yes, I was going to say, he's talking about hot brass right there.
Yeah. So, and now they do the dart competition, which I still say, technically on kiddie rules, Phil did win. I still say Dimmy finally won a target one. So I say the next event should be archery, go-kart racing, jousting. Start at opposite ends, race around the track, shooting at each other with archery while driving go-karts.
You are talking like Nerf darts, right? I hope.
That would take the fun out of it.
Oh, my God. Why can I actually see
Well,
that
they can
almost
practice trying
taking
to shoot
place?
targets, like bullseye targets while driving by, but I figured they would always want to kind of screw each other up and maybe, oh, I was aiming for your target. I didn't mean to get you in your bad eye again, Phil.
I can almost see him dressing up like the Mario Brothers and getting in damn go-karts and racing around with, yeah, that's just like bad news all the way right there. Holy shit. Dimitri, I hope you feel better, dude. You got to get back on the air. Need to hear your sparkling voice talking about the stuff that you learned from the FDA.
I'm still anxious to hear the report from that too. I know it's not going to be good.
No, there's a couple of things that I've wanted to ask him, and I've been waiting. You know, he's got his, between him and Phil. Jesus, those guys travel more than I've seen anybody travel, and I don't know how long. You know, and now
I don't know the exact figure, but at one point I did ask Dimmy, and I think it was somewhere between 150,000 to 250,000 miles he flies a year. That's a lot of flying. And most of the time he uses a plane doing that too.
I'm not going to say a word. I'm not going to say a damn thing. I'm just going to sit here with my damn tennis racket. How about that? Do you know I actually stopped and I looked at a little 4-inch pop filter, and I was actually going to pick it up, and I went, no, I like my big here. I'm going to hide behind this damn thing. And you know, when I was doing the interview down at the shop, and I was talking with the manager, and her name is Michelle. She even, before I really started doing anything, she commented, she goes, "Where's your tennis racket?" I went, fuck you. Because I know where that came from. She's been listening to this guy, Dimitri. But it was odd because I've got those just standard microphones, you know, on just a little pedestal. And her audio came out fantastically awesome. Mine, I have gotten and grown so accustomed to a studio mic and the way that it does things. But, yeah. I need to backtrack a little bit because I need to talk about, there are two things that are really going on that have me peeved in the news. And the very first one, and I know that you've got a slide for it, and I've got one. The FDA a while ago came out, they said that they sent out letters to the top 5 pod-based systems for Juul, Views, Mark 10, all this stuff, right? And they gave them 60 days in order to turn around, and they want these companies in 60 days to turn around and say, here's what we're going to do to help curb youth appeal to our products.
Which is crazy on its own because it's not even the manufacturer's responsibility because that's not who they're selling to.
No, that's like asking Chevrolet to stop people from drinking and driving. What the fuck is that? Really?
The FDA goes, hey, we'll pass the buck, pass it on to them. That way in the public, it makes it look like we're doing something, taking proactive.
That's exactly.
Meantime, it opens up the door for the ones who are interested in taking over the entire vape market to have their say.
That's exactly what I'm looking at. Because, and I know that it's been discussed and people have kind of batted it around a little bit. They said that Altria last week said it will pull its Mark 10 pod-based products and will stop selling all flavors except for menthol or tobacco in its e-cig-alike products until the FDA reviews and approves them. How much of a kiss-ass move was that?
Same thing is PMI back in California and in Canada, but especially in California during the first flavor hearings there, they said, you don't really need all these flavors. All smokers really need is tobacco flavor, maybe some menthol. And that's all you need. You don't need these berries. You don't need these pies. You don't need these fruits. So Philip Morris said, we fully support. Let's get rid of those flavors. They aren't needed. What flavors were they talking about? Not the flavors in the flavored tobacco, which a lot of the mini companies kind of put out, and Quick Tuck ones there, not them, but a lot of the small ones. But the main thing was, look at those e-juices that those open systems are using. Let's get rid of that. And what's the best way to do that? Oh, no, we should get rid of it.
Yeah.
Same with yes, we support Tobacco 21 because we really care. It gives
They
them a
don't
talking
give a
point.
shit.
It gives, in the public side, they go, oh, see, the tobacco companies are trying to help out. They are working cooperatively. They're trying to go out of their way. And it's these vape companies that are really causing all this shit. In the meantime, they know that you get rid of the flavors, every vape company competitor is gone.
Yeah, they're going to go out.
And then they don't care if somebody vapes or if they smoke. Because guess what? If they're selling both, you're still going to buy their product. You want to become a dual user? You want to bounce back and forth? Hey, no problem. They're selling both products. As a matter of fact, they kind of prefer you use their vape products because they aren't paying the tobacco taxes on that.
And
now.
that's one of the
and
biggest
they get to pocket
ones.
that.
That's one of the biggest ones is Montana. I believe it was Montana or one of the Dakotas had turned around and they wanted to turn and increase their state tax by another $2 per pack of cigarettes to pay.
And they also want to implement a new tax on e-cigarettes and vaping devices.
Yes. And that just blows my mind. They know that they're losing money through the MSA because they're not getting their taxation because cigarette smoking is declining. There is no doubt about that. And it is. Patrick has done it. I know Dimitri has done it. There has been, you've covered it when you're talking with other people. There has been consistently shown decline since vaping really started to become more mainstream. The amount of people smoking has dropped dramatically due to vaping.
And that's why they push it so heavily. Even the MPs are pushing for vaping to be accepted in the UK. The health organizations are pushing for vaping to be accepted in the UK. They completely separate it from any smoking regulations.
Yeah.
Any smoking bylaws, vaping is not included. And the health organizations, the doctors, the MPs, they say vaping is not smoking. It should not be regulated. It should not be legislated the same way.
No, it should not be. There's one more quick thing.
Montana, South Dakota is also looking at going for taxes. And the crazy part is, from the Master Settlement Agreement in 2017, South Dakota received $24.2 million in tobacco settlement payments, but only spent $4.5 million on state tobacco prevention.
Isn't that sweet? Yeah. What'd they do with the rest of it? Maybe they had some guy by the name of Glantz come to town and they paid him. Oh.
Well, from the one article I was reading, the CDC estimates that the states will receive a record $27.5 billion from tobacco taxes and settlements in 2018. Yet less than 3%, so $721.6 million, will actually be allocated to prevention and cessation programs.
Yeah.
And when they do cessation programs, what do? Oh, use NRT Pharma. It is good for you. You will relapse. Yeah. You will go back to smoking. We will get more money back.
Yeah,
that is a good thing for us.
The one part that you mentioned earlier, saying that the FDA or the government would claim that they are doing better. Hey, look at this. We're actually getting these people to do something. Once Altria came out and said that they were going to back up and drop their flavors out of the pods and shit like that, it's a bullshit move. 100%. The FDA, in their recent press release,
is not in first place in that group's competition. They aren't even close to first place.
Hey, who cares? Far down. Views outsells the hell out of a Mark 10. For Altria to go, oh, we're going to stop selling. Who cares? You weren't selling that many of the damn things anyhow. It's nothing but a political bullshit stunt.
What it does do for them? It gets some publicity.
It did, because the FDA turned right around and they started using that in their press release, saying, oh, well, some of the manufacturers said that they would pull their flavors until the FDA approved it. Some of my ass. You had a conversation with 5 different pod system manufacturers and one. Where the hell does one turn into some?
And think of even with Juul, like him or don't like him, doesn't matter. That's not what I'm talking about. But with Juul, what happened? These things are the most popular things with kids. All the cool kids are using them. Everyone thinks that, oh yeah, if you want to be trending, you've got to be using Juul. What happens? Oh my God. For some reason, kids are suddenly using Juul that we keep talking about. We should talk about it more. Oh my God, the more we talk about it, the more it's getting on. It's epidemic. And we caused it.
Yeah, and the minute that they said epidemic is when all the damn news sites went, oh my God, there's a youth epidemic. Yeah,
headlines.
A big headline. We're going to talk about that in just a minute. Right now, though, I want to take a few minutes because I want to switch over and do our sponsor spot. Because without our sponsors, the Smoke Free Radio Network could not do what it does. So if you would, check this out. We'll be right back.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
See, I just did what you did. I had my microphone on mute, and I said 2 words, and I didn't hear anything. I'm like, nope, stop. That's a Tarling issue, and we're not doing that shit. Oh,
I wonder how many takes it took for Phil to get a Vaping on the Mic right. I can just see him going, we're here with Vaping and the Great.
I can't imagine. I asked him, honest to God, and just an absolute fantastic guy. I asked him if he would do a voiceover for me for the Smoke Free Radio Network, because I want people to hear that before they hear anything, about Vaping and the Mic. I'm part of a larger umbrella of shows, and I want people to remember that. And then he asked me, he goes, well, what are the name of the other shows that you're on? I said, well, I'm doing Vaping and the Mic, and I'm going to do Rewind. And honest to God, he sent me one for every show, plus the main one that I really wanted him to do. It was absolutely awesome. I felt like a kid in a candy store. I'm like, oh my God, check this out. I had to go and get my wife and say, listen. She's like, what? And then she was like, that's really kind of cool. I'm like, hell yeah, that's really kind of cool.
And he does it wearing Skechers.
I don't know if he was. I have no idea what the fuck that man was wearing when he did those.
Get him on the phone line. You got
Yeah.
the phone lines open tonight.
Yeah, the phone lines are open tonight. If people want to call in, it's 215-383-5752. The phone lines are open and they are working. But I want to get back to... And again, this is one of those ones that just absolutely ticks me off. When you're talking about this epidemic shit, right? And I'm going to switch over just for a minute to a screen that doesn't have either of us on it. But I'm going to bring this up just for a quick second. It is an article that was written for Vaping 360, and it was just came out today. It's by Jim McDonald, and he talks about the figures that they are coming up with, and he goes through and actually cites where this is bullshit. And I keep hearing Dimitri's bullshit alarm going off over there, every time. It said the figure that the Truth Initiative trumpets on its website is that teens aged 15 to 17 are 16 times more likely to ever use a Juul than adults 25 to 34. And they make other claims but the CDC defines frequent use as 20 of the last 30 days, not 10. And so he walks through this and he explains that only 1.5% used the Juul on 10 or more days of the last 30. 1.5%. But what got me is he broke it down. He goes, why don't they instead say the truth? And here was his quote. He goes, or even better yet, we surveyed, that's right here, we surveyed 13,357 people between the ages of 15 and 34. Of the 15 to 17-year-olds, 34 of them used a Juul on 10 or more days of the last 30. Where the hell does that even think about becoming an epidemic?
Well, take it from, think back when vaping first was started, not really out on the public market. Let's say we use the figure one person, just it can be 10, it can be 100,000, whatever. But early on, one person vape because I got this I ordered it from China because that was the only place it came up. It's something just come out. There's no market for it yet here. Let me try it. Down the road, stores start opening. Suddenly have 10 people. Yes, we got this from our local place. Gee, I wish we had one of those too. But now you have 10 people vaping. Down the road, more places open. You can order online. It's become more mainstream. 100 people open. Well, take from that one person to 100 people. Oh my God, it's 1,000%. It's epidemic. Look how much it's grown. It's taking over the world. That's how they do it. Math is fun for data manipulation. You can manipulate data any way you want. Same with Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. What do you get when you multiply 6 by 9? 42. And that is actually a true statement. Base 13, it does equal 32. So you can change math any way that you want and cherry pick whatever data. And then what they do is the conclusion is, no, it's not a conclusion. You just go, well, we can pretend that because a horse is an equine and a person rides a horse, we can pretend a person is an equine too.
Yeah, and it just doesn't work that way. Like, not at all.
And why don't they just tell the truth? First of all, it would go against everything that they've already bullshitted about to begin with.
It would.
So then you have a hell of a lot of explanation. You've got a hell of a lot of rules which have been based on your expertise, your professional government qualifications. All that is now up for grabs. And what do we do now? We built all our laws on lies, which they have.
Huh.
For them, it's a case of, well, gee, what about all this money that we've been funding to you for these studies, and you come up and say, well, that's not really what it says, and it's not really a true study. It's kind of something we put together because you asked us to get you something that would make vaping look bad. So we came up with this really bright idea. Nobody ever thought about it except for the last 10 people and Mr. Glantz. And he suggested to us that and there's why they continue that. If they change direction now, they're good. They're up shit's creek.
They can't change their narrative now, because then they would just show their hand and show that they're doing nothing but lying.
And that's why you'll find, like, even with the FDA, they go, yes, we realize it might help some. It could potentially, possibly, and some long distance relative concept might perhaps help somebody quit smoking. We don't have the studies on that, but we have an epidemic here.
That whole
as long as they keep saying, as long as they keep tossing a little bone, and that's all it is, just a little, we'll get the vapors to sit up, toss them a little bone, saying, yes, it probably is safer than smoking. We aren't going to say directly, this is definitely safer and you should be switching from smoking to this. We won't say that, but it could potentially be safer than smoking. But oh my God, this stuff is an epidemic.
And that's what is just absolutely killing me, because all of the news outlets, and I know that it is part of the news organization all over the world, bad news sells. Good news does not.
Good news is boring.
The only time that good news is going to sell is if the government is giving you money, you won something for free and didn't have to do shit about it, or that's it. Bad news sells. So I know that all of the main medias are picking up all of this. Now, there is one thing, and I did not even think to pull this up earlier, and I'm not even directly sure where it's going to be. Dimitri with the Tennessee Smoke Free Association is putting out, and I believe it's already out, and I would have to, and I apologize that I don't know, but they are doing a public service announcement. And I'm going to start plastering that everywhere, because that is what we seriously need to have hitting news media outlets.
PR is something that's been needed a long time. The industry has spent so much time using the strictly lobbyists only, we have to get in front of them, that we haven't had any PR, which is basically with the ants and Campaign for Killing Kids and all these grassroots things, and even the health organizations rely on, is we can put out negative press. We don't even have to put anything legit out or qualify it. The public will get it. And if you notice every headline, for instance, batteries explosions. Well, it's battery explodes in pocket with loose change.
Yes.
Next media picks it up and fire explodes in pockets. Next one, e-cigarette explodes, human combustible.
Yes.
Instant.
E-cigarette explodes, human combustible, person
New York
in hospital.
has been devastated. Worse.
It does.
And it's all because of this Cigalite battery.
It does. And that irritates the shit out of me as well, because they're not reporting the whole
Headlines compete
story.
with headlines. How do you draw the attention? Make a bigger sounding headline than the other news out.
Have worse news than the next person over. Mm-hmm. And that's a crock of shit. Ugh.
And what's really funny is a lot of going back to like the battery explosion, and another one in Canada with the kid who supposedly died from a vape pen from the nicotine overdose and collapsed and everything and died. All those stories a lot of those stories have actually been proven faked, like the ones that really went crazy, like the one of the bathroom exploded and burned out the ceiling and blew out all my teeth and and all the photos. That thing had been fabricated. The one with the kid, there was no nicotine in his system. It had nothing to do with that.
Yeah, so where the hell did that come from?
We saw it on the floor. Therefore, that was what killed him. No, he had a medical condition.
You speak about medical condition. Mm-hmm. There's this other article that I'm not even going to pull up right now, but there's this other article that has turned around that is talking about secondhand vapor around kids that have asthma.
That one actually comes out approximately, now it's on about every 2.5 months cycle for that specific one about secondhand vapor. That's been released, I think, this the third or fourth round for that. And what they do is they say, oh, new study. And all they do is recycle basically, or regurgitate and reword the previous articles and so forth. And if you look at it, they go, from our studies in 2013 and 2014.
Yeah.
So like 5 years ago. Yeah.
That's
it. The study's there though. Yeah. And a lot has changed in 5 years.
Yeah. There is no doubt about that. You talk about studies. I don't know. You've probably seen it. If not, the Vaping Legion turned around and did a mass dump of studies into a Dropbox account.
Mm-hmm.
I took it. I downloaded the whole thing simply because I might want to. Some of these things are a couple of years old, but some of it is very current. But there's over 2,000 different articles in there. And in uncompressed, it's over 2.4 gig of information.
Yeah.
I about shit when I saw that. Which, of course, made me get in touch with, the guy that runs the thing, the Vaping Legion. And then hopefully I'm going to be able to talk with him and some of the people from the Legion for a rewind show coming up here pretty soon. But that just blew my mind, that there was that many studies out there covering, I don't even know what kind of information is running rampant through there, aerosols, nicotine levels, and
that's why, don't forget, the usual excuse and claim in legislation. Well, we don't really know much about these products yet. It's a case of how many thousand reports would you like?
Yeah.
And we aren't talking about the ones, not the junk science ones where it's like on paid to publish sites or like on JAMA. As soon as you see JAMA, okay, it's going to be an anti-vaping. It's a paid, fabricated data type thing. And it's a case of, what do you mean, 1,000? I did that with a politician who came to my door. He said, well, you don't really have too much out there. Like, we haven't been able to find anything. I go, I've got over 1,000 reports. How many would you like to start with?
Yeah, which ones do you want to look at first?
And it was like, there's that much information? I said, yeah, you don't hear about it because that doesn't go with what sells the media.
No, it doesn't go with the narrative of what's really going on or what's happening or who's doing what or anything like that. No, and the one that got me again with that was Regulator Watch, when he did an interview with one of the foremost people, the doctor, and even the doctor was telling him, this is something that they don't need to screw around with. Don't regulate the hell out of this stuff because this is saving people's lives. And what in that one in particular,
in a lot of places they aren't even allowed to even give a comment or suggest it to people.
Yep. But the one that got me into that one was he was saying there is no proven proof to say that nicotine does any harm to an adolescent's brain.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
It's true. There was, and I've mentioned a number of times, but there was a study about 2.5 years ago, and their whole thing was we can't find the addictiveness to it. Like, granted, it does have some addictive properties because of the chemical composition, but from all the stuff that we've been trying, it's not a case of, oh yes, this is an absolute, this will addict you to such and such.
Yes.
They said it has a lot of benefits, and on its own, it just wasn't doing anything. The tobacco companies back in the 50s realized the same thing. They discovered that the nicotine on its own was not addictive enough to hold people, their new customers, to the smoking. And that's when they brought in the chemists and everything, added all the boosters to it, make it heavier, make it more potent and everything. And it's those boosters that gave it the huge addictiveness. Can some people get addicted? I'm sure that with the level in a joule, yeah, I can see it happening for a while. But in the UK, It was a year and a half, 2 years ago. One of the publications there had been following vapors from their teens on through the years for about 3 or 4 or 5 years at that point. The first year they'd found like there was about a 70, 80% had quit smoking and so on, and that kept going up.
Mm-hmm.
Then they wanted to do a follow-up, and they started noticing that most of the ones who had started when they were teens with the vaping, basically when they hit 22 to 24, that's when they found that most of them basically just kind of like, yeah, I can take it or I can leave it. They might have it out when they go out for a night out in the bar and have beers with their buddies, and they go, but otherwise, like, we don't really bother with it. It's nothing spectacular anymore. But then again, don't forget, a lot of that was when they were using zero nic. And then a lot of the open pod systems came, which did not offer zero nic, was just high nic salts. So that may have changed. I haven't checked the latest figures there.
Yeah, and
it wouldn't surprise me if some of the nic salts could become
the nic salts.
But they'd be easier to at least get rid of because you haven't got everything else that quantifies that even further.
And the nic salts are even going to be coming under attack from the FDA because they've already come out and said that they're going to turn around and start to nail the companies that were.
Don't forget, most of them weren't available.
No, they weren't
prior to. Yeah.
But that's neither here nor there. That's more things that we can
more
talk
battles
about.
coming up ahead,
and
the ads will always cycle through a number of things, and it's usually we tested it in mice, and I'd like to see the Roads Union get together, protect the damn mice. Like Rodent's going, stop making us vape, stop making us smoke, stop making us do these things. You know what? If you're going to do it to it, at least put us in something nicer than a cage.
Yeah. Put us in our own little cage and let us go.
But no, it's usually all these things. Well, we tested it on mice, and there was one. Yes, we put the mice in a sealed container with heavy vapor for 24 hours, and they died.
Yes.
Do you think it could have been because you put them in a heavy container filled with vapor that you didn't want escaping, so you sealed it so that no air could go in?
Yeah.
Oh, that might be, but no, we think it was a vapor.
Yeah, it was the vapor product, absolutely. 100%.
Frobisher's cat, basically.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's Bill Tarling from Vancouver in Canada. He runs Vape Distortion on Facebook, and I would urge anyone that is looking for more information to go and check out Vape Distortion, because you pile information in there. And as he has mentioned before, it is not a conversational site. It is an informational dump, truly, for related articles to vaping and material very close to it.
It's basically just to try and keep track of some of the most latest reports from all over the world that might be vape related, so that if people have a Facebook group or themselves or whatever, or their friends, or they're interested in a specific topic, that they can find it quickly and easily. So I just try and keep it updated there. And that way, if you like something, grab it, talk about it in your own group and everything. But this is just there's so much that's always coming out that it's just to try and keep track of a little bit of it. So it's just a little part that I do.
Oh, you plow a lot of information to that. And I would encourage people, go check it out. It's Vape Distortion on Facebook. Just look it up. Bill, I appreciate you taking time to join me this evening. Always good conversation, good information for people. And I will catch up with you again here before very long.
Sounds good. Have a great night.
Thank you. That's Bill Tarling, ladies and gentlemen. And he is one of the people that you get him on the show, and there's all kinds of havoc that will be happening. But always a lot of information, a lot of good time. One thing that I'm just going to throw out here real quick is, again, talking about a newer show coming up. This is a screenshot that I did from the interview with Michelle on the roadside assistance. And I'll tell you what, folks, being able, as you get out there and you intermingle with a lot of people, it was a fun time. we covered a lot of ground. She had a lot of her own insights to kind of add to things, and it opened up my eyes on a few different things. But that'll be coming up on November 12th. That'll be the first edition of the Roadside Assistance. November 5th is going to be the first edition of the Rewind show, and both of these are going to be uploaded. They're pre-recorded shows. Both of them will be uploaded to the Smoke Free Radio Network and also out on my YouTube channel. But both of these, as well as Vaping in the Mic, all of them come from the Smoke Free Radio Network, and without them, I couldn't do any of what I do, which I enjoy thoroughly. So it is an awesome kind of thing. All right, folks, until next week, I appreciate you taking time to join me on Vaping in the Mic. I will catch up with everybody again in a week's time. Hopefully, until then, you have a great weekend.